One of these Nintendo Switch Pro controllers is real and one is fake. By just looking at them, I don't think you can really tell the difference. I would even go that far and say that even if I told you which is the fake one and which is the real one, from just looking at them, you actually don't know which is the fake one. If you guessed the Monster Hunter one to be the fake, then congrats. But how can you be sure that the controller that you might have is real? Or maybe if it's a fake? A couple of months ago, I had the idea of making a comparison video of this fake Switch Pro controller and the real one. But then I kind of scrapped the idea because I thought it wasn't that interesting anymore, and the fake controllers had been around for years at that point, so I thought it wasn't really worth doing that video anymore. But then a few days ago, one of my favorite YouTubers, Bob Wulff from the Wulff Den YouTube channel, uploaded a YouTube Shorts talking about one of his fake Switch Pro controllers.
This is a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. This is a fake Nintendo Switch Pro controller that I just found on Amazon for 35 bucks.
He says that his controller doesn't have the Nintendo Switch logo on it.
The Nintendo logo is supposed to be in the middle here. It's supposed to be on the back too.
But mine does. So I thought that was interesting, and that kind of sparked the idea in me again that I wanted to talk more about it, because as I spent more time with the controller, I found more things to talk about that I didn't find previously. He mentions a few more things that I want to touch upon in this video and elaborate further. His controller came with a cable that looks like a Nintendo cable, but it doesn't have the Nintendo logo on it. I don't have my cable anymore, but I also had one, and it had Nintendo's logo on it, but it was so bad that I had to throw it away after a few weeks because it broke. He also says that the sticks are always calibrated poorly, and I can attest to that. I'm going to talk about that later in the video when also trying to spot the fakes.
Even if you take it apart, the internals are only a little bit different.
The internals of the controller are also slightly different, but I also don't know if maybe the newer Switch Pro controllers also are a bit different on the inside, so I can't really say much to that, but the Splatoon 2 controller that I have that is real does look different on the inside than the fake one that I have. My fake controller even has the Easter egg behind the right stick, and it's the correct one. Earlier fakes also tried to replicate this Easter egg, but there was some gibberish on there. Instead of saying thanks to all game fans, it said...
This one says TMX2 all game fans L.
Maybe they did that on purpose to not get hunted down by Nintendo's lawyers, so for legal reasons, but I don't know, maybe they just tried and failed because it got lost in translation or something like that. What makes this a bit kind of terrifying, I guess, is that you could find a controller like this on the used market and not know that it's a fake because it looks so real. It has the logo on it, on the front, on the back. It has the correct Easter egg under the stick, and it feels like a normal Switch Pro controller. So it would be possible that you could buy a fake controller if you just buy a used one. The person selling it might not even know themselves that they have a fake because they bought it used. The buttons and the texture of this controller, they feel pretty much identical to the real thing. Now this controller also has motion controls and rumble, which isn't too shocking, but what is a bit shocking though is that this one can wake the console from sleep. And it also has NFC support for amiibos. These are two things that, as far as I know, older fakes couldn't do. Considering these things, it is difficult to find out whether a controller is a real one or a fake one by just looking at it. I did find a few things, however, that point to the controller being real and authentic instead of being a fake one, and I want to talk about that a bit. The first thing is a rather small thing, and that is on the box. Even though this one does have Nintendo's branding on the controller, the right font on the side, and also the Switch logo, it looks basically exactly the same. But it does have a Chinese sticker on top, which is a bit of a weird thing, and I don't think that's there on the real ones. But you might not have the box or whatever. If you really want to make sure that you have a real controller, there's two more things that are a better sign of telling if it's real. Go into your system settings on the Switch to calibrate the control stick. Like Bob already said, the fakes always have poorly calibrated sticks, so the sticks will always tend to latch on to the X and Y axis, and they can't really be used to make precise movements with them. Like trying to make circles, for example, just doesn't work. As opposed to the real one, where it's really easy to make circles with it. The fake controller also has really bad dead zones, so you have to move the stick quite a bit before it even registers any movement. The real one basically registers it instantly. The real one also seems to move more freely and doesn't latch onto the X and Y axis like the fake one does. Then another way to find out if your controller is real or fake is to go into this search for controller feature in the Switch's controller settings. This is a feature that mostly is used for finding Joy-Cons because they're small and you can just have them somewhere between your couch or under your bed, and then the Switch controller will vibrate and you can hear where it is. If you press on the real Pro controller, you will hear a loud and kind of obnoxious high-pitched noise so that you can find it easily. The fake one also vibrates as it does have rumble, but it's much quieter, softer, and a deeper tone, so it's harder to find, which in this case is a bad thing. You can really hear the difference between the real Switch Pro controller with the strong HD rumble and the fake Pro controller, which has a very quiet and weak rumble. I even tried putting the real controller under a blanket, or under multiple blankets actually, and I could still hear it, whereas I can only barely even hear the fake Pro controller out in the open. Another difference I found is the 4 screws that hold the backplate in place, but they're all hidden under the grip, so you would have to take those off, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's understandable if you don't want to do that. On the original, these screws are silver, but on the fake they are black like the rest of the screws on the controller. So if you want to check if a Switch Pro controller is fake, my advice is to check for the sound of the rumble vibrations when searching for the controller and to see how accurate the sticks are. You could also open up the controller and look at the internals, which are a bit different but mostly the same. However, on this fake one, even the battery has Nintendo's logo on it. This controller does basically everything the original does, but worse. The motion controls work, but not as good as on the Pro controller. When I switch back and forth between this one and the real one in Mario Galaxy, for example, I do feel that this one feels a bit sluggish and a little bit lagging behind, and the real Switch Pro controller, it just feels instant and more precise. As I already said, the sticks are both bad and you can't really be too precise with them. Now, funnily enough, one thing that is almost identical is the D-pad. It is almost exactly the same as the original one, which is a bad thing because this one is pretty bad actually. It feels okay, but you get so many misinputs that it's basically unusable if you need a precise input. I do not recommend getting a fake controller like this. First up, because Nintendo is still making these Pro controllers, and by buying a fake one, you technically are hurting them. You also don't get Nintendo's quality control, because you're not buying a Nintendo product. Although mine was mostly fine, I can't really be too sure for how long that will be. It might work 2 more days, but it might also work for another year. I don't know. When buying a real one from Nintendo, you are most certainly going to be getting a controller that is going to last you for years to come. And also don't forget that it just generally works a bit worse than the Switch Pro controller in basically any aspect. What worries me is that you could buy this controller on eBay or whatever as a used controller and might not know that it's fake, as it looks convincing because it has the logo and also the Easter egg. I bought this controller about a year ago, and that was on AliExpress. That listing is no longer there, but it had the logo on the controller and on the box, but I guess they can't do that anymore, although the controller that I got does have those things. The only fake controllers I can now find look like the Switch Pro controller but don't have Nintendo's branding on them anymore. However, they do seem to be the newer, better, updated fakes that have NFC support and wake the system. So my recommendation would be to either get a new official Switch Pro controller from directly Nintendo themselves, Amazon, or another retailer that you might have in your country, like maybe Best Buy, Walmart, whatever. You could also go ahead and buy a third-party controller from reputable brands like PowerA, PDP, or 8BitDo. Or what you could also do is get an adapter like this one, or from Mayflash. These two are from 8BitDo that lets you use other controllers that you might already have, like an Xbox One controller, PlayStation 4 or 5 controller. With this adapter from 8BitDo, you can also connect GameCube and Wii Pro controllers to the Switch. Or to be honest, you can also just use the Joy-Cons. They are mostly fine, although maybe a bit uncomfortable if you have bigger hands. That sums up everything I have to say about this situation. Thanks to Bob Wulff for sparking the idea again, and all of you guys for watching out there. I hope this video was informative or entertaining for some of you guys out there, and I will see you in a few days when I will be talking about this puppy right here. Okay, for real though, why did I do that last bit at the end of the shot? That's the only recording I have of that, and I have to use that now.